Today, we are very excited to have a very special guest, Chris Mullins, the phone success doctor. And Chris is a master for more than 30 years of everything intake. And really, it's about building relationships, empathy, but there's more to it than that. And there's training, there's scripts, there's monitoring, recording, and she will take you inside and out of the process of building an intake system that will convert prospects into clients. And she and her team have been doing this a long time. They are the absolute best. She's a national speaker on the subject of intake. She's written multiple books about intake, and she is an authority, and she is one of the most generous giving people that I have ever known, including when I started my firm. Chris was there for me, and she just basically took the time to spend with me to help me with the processes of intake at my firm. And I'm so grateful for that. So we are absolutely thrilled to have Chris Mullins with us today. And Chris, I'm going to give the floor to you.
All right, super. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for having me. I hope everybody's doing well and happy and healthy. And it's great to see some faces on the screen. I see more names than faces, but it's nice to see some faces. And I actually have a real prospect phone call that was provided to me by John from his office that I am going to play and I'm going to critique for you. And so what you want to do is, it doesn't really matter what the practice area is, how I'm going to critique this call. It applies to all practice areas, all types of law firms, all different sizes. It doesn't really matter. The focus really is, obviously at the end of the day, is conversion. But in order to get there, we need to be able to have our intake team supported the right way so that they can provide love, care, and concern to your prospective clients. And then they can do it in a happy way, in a way showing that they're concerned for their welfare and they're focusing on one phone call at a time. So I'm going to critique this call. We'll talk about it a little bit, and then I'll give you some tips. And certainly if anybody has any questions, then that would be great. And one of the things I just want you to know that I'm a firm believer in is I do believe that the single most important position in any law firm is the intake specialist, no matter what. In other words, if there was no intake specialist, you wouldn't have a law firm. There's no need for a law firm. So intake specialists are heroes, and that's the way I've always looked at them. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and play this call. I'm going to start and stop it a lot and talk about different points of it. And again, it doesn't matter the type of call or the practice area. So everybody get excited, and here we go.
Thank you for calling Official Law Firm. My name is Brent. How can I help you?
Hi, yes, Brent. My name is Lisa Clemmer, and
okay. And so I'm gonna look at my notes. You're gonna see me looking at my notes, but everybody could hear that, right, John?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing that you want to do is, with your greeting, when you answer the phone, you really need to be excited and have a big smile and slow down. So we kind of did a greeting here that was a little bit too fast. So instead it would be something like, welcome to Fisher Law Firm. My name is Brent. How can I help you? Not too fast, not too slow. And you got that pop at the very beginning. Welcome to Fisher Law Firm. My name is Brent. How can I help you? With that smile. So I just want to play that again, and you're going to see how fast it really went. Remember, when a prospective client calls your office, here's what you want to remind your team is they don't want to call your office. They don't like law firms. This is not something on their list of things to do. When they call your office, they're at the end of their rope. They've already tried to do some things on their own. They've kind of procrastinated and put it off. They're afraid, they're uncomfortable, but they're at the end of their rope. So emotionally, if they dial your number, this means they're ready. They are ready for help, and they're ready to go to the next step with your law firm, or they would not have bothered to call you. Now, there is something emotionally that's happened to them that got them to call today. So write this question down. This question is a question that you want to teach your team to ask a prospective client. What is it that got you to give us a call today? question mark, pause, wait for the answer. So whatever they're calling you about, you want your team to come back and say, well, tell me what happened that got you to give us a call today? And emphasize the word today, question mark, pause, wait for the answer. Because you want to find out is what's their emotional pain? What's their personal motivator? What's their raw story that just occurred in their world that made them say, I'm done. I can't take it anymore. I have to call and get help. Knowing the answer to that question will build a strong relationship and help you to convert that prospect to the next step. And then you also would share that information internally with other team members that would also communicate with that prospect to get them to end up becoming a client. So you can always remind that prospect, you said the reason you contacted us, you finally broke down and did it was because of X. So make sure that you have your team ask that question. Critically important.
Calling official law firm. My name is Brent. How can I help you?
Hi, yes, sir. My name is Lisa Clemmer, and I was just been doing some research on hospitals, and this is all new to me. I lost my father 2 weeks ago, and I truly believe that he was mishandled, misdiagnosed in so many ways. Literally went in for surgery July 2nd for a shoulder surgery, and within 3 months passed away.
Now, here's the thing. As soon as you hear that, as soon as you hear something like that, you drop everything and you just provide complete empathy. Whichever way you're not comfortable with empathy, you've got to do it. So it's, oh my God, that's terrible. I'm so sorry to hear that. Or it sounds like a terrible situation. I'm so sorry to hear about your dad. Thank you so much for giving us a call. You've got to provide empathy. I've been doing this for a really long time, and I think the most difficult thing I have teaching students and even lawyers is how to deliver empathy and how important it is. Most people are very uncomfortable about providing empathy. You feel like you're crossing a line, like it's too intimate, and you're also worried that you're going to get wrapped up in their story. And some people think you have to provide an example of a similar story. It's not true. And just acknowledge it. Pay attention to the phone call. Don't pay attention to question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, license and registration, just the facts, trying to find out what's going on. You're here to build a relationship. You want to teach your team that you're not really in the legal business as much as you're in the relationship and healing business. That's the real business you're in. So providing empathy is important. Now, the other thing too is you can, if you're more advanced at intake, take control of this call immediately, like before we start getting into the story. So I'm just going to back up for a minute and show you where we would do that. First, I'm just going to play for one more second longer so you can hear how Brent responds to Lisa telling this brief little story. Here's what Brent says. So Brent said, and what was his cause of death? Lisa was just really upset talking about her dad and this terrible thing. And we say, what was his cause of death? This is what's happening. This is what happens with your team when you don't provide ongoing coaching or you're not listening to their phone calls and you're not supporting them and helping them to get through this, okay? So now what I want to do is I just want to rewind for a minute. I want to stop you where somebody's a little bit more advanced in intake. They can stop the story, let her talk a little bit later, but stop the story immediately when she calls and as soon as she says her name, because the first thing that you want to do is you want to welcome them to your practice with the right greeting, and then you want to get their name. Now, she gave her name, but then she started into a story, and what you want to do is try to control the call and just say to her, I'd like to ask you some questions to see how I can help you. But she started going on to a little story, so I just want to play that part and just show you exactly the place where you could go ahead and interrupt without being like rude or anything like that.
Thank you for calling official law firm. My name is Brent. How can I help you?
Hi, yes, Brent. My name is Lisa Clemmer, and
right there, as soon as she said her name, even though she started to say, and it's okay. As long as you have the right voice and the right tone, it's okay to say, "Hi, Lisa. My name is Brent. I'd like to ask you some questions to see how I can help you. Would that be okay?" As long as you have the right tone of voice and you acknowledge her by name with this particular type of an example, you might get a different example, it's okay. The biggest challenge is for intake specialists to feel comfortable with doing a compassionate interrupt, feeling that it's okay to do that. Okay. And the reason you want to do it is you want to take control of the call. So your first thing is the welcome to the practice. Then you get their name. She happened to give her name. And then the next thing is, "I'd like to ask you some questions to see how I can help you. Would that be okay?" And so now you're in control of the conversation. And then bam, now you ask your screening questions. You're in control. You'll get her story, and you still need to provide empathy because she's going to tell you her story, and you're going to need to do that. But you've got to ask your screening questions and control the call as soon as you can. So that's just an example. Let's continue and see what happens. Here we go.
I was just doing some research on hospitals, and this is all new to me. I lost my father 2 weeks ago, and I truly believe that he was mishandled, misdiagnosed in so many ways. Literally went in for surgery July 2nd for a shoulder surgery, and within 3 months passed away.
So what was the cause of death?
There was numerous cause of death.
Now, if you were able to listen a little closely, you could hear that she was starting to cry just a little bit. She was just losing it just a little bit. She just started to. So you want your intake specialist to have their listening ears on and pick up on this. So here we go.
I'd have to have my mom read the death certificate to me again. Problem breathing.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know if they performed an autopsy?
So here we go. Lisa is telling you this terrible situation. And now we've added another challenge. We're interrupting her. Okay. This happens all the time. This is a big deal. So we're interrupting her and we're not providing any empathy. The reason this is happening is because, one, we don't have a script to follow, and we don't have proper screening questions in place to follow. And because we, as the intake specialist in this example, our job is difficult as an intake specialist. We're taking tons of phone calls every day, all day long. It's so difficult. The stories that we're hearing are traumatic. They're horrific. They're terrible. We as intake specialists can take on that trauma. It's very, very difficult. So the reason this is happening, besides not having scripts, is we're not getting proper ongoing monitoring and coaching so that your intake team can hear their phone calls. It's really painful for them to listen to their own calls. It's very difficult for anybody to listen to your own recorded voice, let alone your own call, and then get critiqued. But it's a must. You must have them listen to calls and provide them support and coaching. Show them what they did that worked and show them what they need to fix, and then tell them how to do it. So you've got to have a script, you've got to have screening questions, and you've got to do call monitoring. I call it RMFD, record, monitor, feedback daily. Don't just let them run loose. And the thing is, they want your support and your coaching and your teaching. They want your feedback. They don't want to be alone out there trying to figure it out. Okay, let's see what happens here.
My mother didn't want to.
Okay.
But there's just so many things on top of from July 2nd until
Right.
September 10th.
So would your mother be more?
So here we go again. We're interrupting. We haven't provided empathy yet. And to add another step now our words are we got to be careful of our words. We're interrupting with right. And those words and the way we're interrupting, it's a recipe for disaster. It's going to help this prospect to feel like this person doesn't care about me. This person is not listening to what I just said or to what's going on in my life right now. So you're not going to get this case. And those are the reasons for it. It's about love, care, and concern. It's about empathy. It's about relationships. It's about intimacy. These are the things that are required on every single phone call. Okay, so here we go.
Suited to talk to me about all the details, or?
Oh, she absolutely was, but we just know if we don't have money, nothing ever happens regards to things like this. But we
That's not
also
necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. I mean, look, this is, well, let's back up for a minute. Can I ask how did you find our law firm?
Okay, now, so we don't have empathy. We're talking over. We're interrupting. We're not being mindful of our language. And now here we are. We're 1 minute and 20 seconds into this call, and it's all about me. It's all about me. Me. Tell me, how did you hear about us? That's called internally focused. Write it down. You want your team to be externally focused, not internally focused. Internally focused means we only care about us, what we have to get taken care of. Now, in Brent's heart and his soul, he's probably very empathetic and genuine and caring and loving and all of that. But Brent doesn't realize how he's coming off on this call. He has no idea, or he wouldn't be doing it. Okay? And so that's really important that he knows that. And there's only one way. RMFD, record, monitor, feedback daily. So internally focused, again, means that you're only caring about question, answer, the things that you need to get achieved. That's it. Externally focused, however, is what you want. That's about them. Love, care, concern, empathy, intimacy. You're being in the relationship and the healing business, not the legal business. That's what's going to win you to get a prospect to be a client. Those are the kinds of emotions that you need to have. You need to be able to stop everything that you're doing on the phone call and do that and be comfortable doing that. Okay, so here we go. And the other thing too is Lisa gave her name at the beginning of the conversation, but not once yet have we said her name. We never said her name. We should say her name during the conversation. Use it throughout the conversation. We haven't acknowledged her. We haven't even gotten her phone number. It's always a good idea at the beginning of a phone call to say, may I just get the phone number that you're calling from in case we get disconnected? You know, it might sound like a basic kind of thing, but I can't tell you how many clients, they just don't do it. And if somebody does get disconnected, what are you going to do then? But the main thing I wanted to really mention is we know Lisa's name, and we haven't even said her name yet. We haven't even asked about her mom. We haven't even asked about the dad. Nothing. Okay, here we go.
I was against, my friend did to me.
Oh, the other thing the reason I stopped it there too is about asking about where they heard about you. Here's the right way to do it. Here's what I want you to do going forward. Write this down. Who can we thank for referring you? Okay, that's the right way to do it. And here's the reason is you want the prospect to be asked that question, because here's what they're going to think in their head. Oh, okay, so they must get referrals. This is a good reason to talk to this law firm. That's one reason. The other reason is in a roundabout way, they're going to start thinking, oh, maybe I'll refer too. And then if they don't say that they were referred and they found you on Google or something like that, that's okay. You're still going to get your answer. But the right way to ask it is, who can we thank for referring you? But the right place to ask it is at the end of the phone call. The beginning of the phone call needs to be top heavy in emotions and relationships and love, care, and concern in assumptive language. Assume that they will work with you. Assume that they will agree to an appointment if that's what it is that your call to action is. So that's the salesmanship part of it. Tell them that they called the right place, that they're going to be okay. They're in good hands. They made the right decision. Okay? It's okay to tell them that. Compliment them. Okay, here we go.
Research. She sent me information about Albany Medical Center, and I read the whole entire information. and
Yeah.
your number happened to be on that information page. And I said, you know what?
All right, so it was an internet search?
So we're interrupting a lot. We're interrupting a very lot. Okay, so we've got to be really careful with that. Just let the person talk. There's no need to interrupt. We're interrupting because we're internally focused. We're focused on what we feel like we need to know. That's the reason we're interrupting. It's not because we're a bad person. It's because we want to get achieved what we need to get achieved. We have to see Lisa as a person that has a crisis, and that's why she's calling. Remember, people don't like law firms and they don't want to be calling you. And when they call you, they're at the end of their rope. You have got to help them to feel like they made the right decision by calling your firm. That it was an amazing, incredible experience. The experience at the law firm is the thing you got to remember is prospective clients, write this down. They are going to call 3 to 5 of your competitors before they make their final decision. They might have called some before yours, and they're going to call some after yours. But here's what you want to have happen. When they do call around, because they will, even if you give them a great experience, you want them to say to themselves, you know what? I would not go anywhere else other than where Brent is, because of the way the experience, emphasize experience, was with Brent. You want them to feel that hands down, no matter what. You don't want to sound like a law firm anymore. You want to sound like the Four Seasons and the Ritz-Carlton and stop being like a law firm. You don't want to sound like your competition. And you've got to also remember something too. Your intake specialist has so much control and so much influence that if Lisa in this case decided to move forward with this law firm, it's not because of the law firm. Got nothing to do with the law firm. If she gets offered an appointment, if that's the call to action and she agrees, it's because of Brent. It's only because of Brent. It doesn't get to be about the law firm until she gets to the next step and the next step. It's all about intake. It's all about Brent. It's all about that phone call and that experience. Okay, here we go. Everybody's good, right? Yes.
Yes.
So the faces I can see nodding, yes. Okay. Wide eyes. Here we go.
An internet search, and I found out that Albany Medical Center is a D, a class D. So
Well,
see, we're a C.
yeah, you're right. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything other than the fact that, you know, there were some findings. So how do you want to do this? I mean, here's
Okay. Language wise, so how do you want to do this? That's not the kind of language that you want to be using. We are in control. So we know what we need to do. We know how to do this. This person is ready to do something or they wouldn't have dialed your number, okay? You got to remember that. As an intake specialist, just be assumptive and know that this person is ready for the next step or they never would have called. If they don't want to schedule an appointment and you go ahead and be assumptive and schedule with them, or you try to schedule them and they say no, they'll tell you and you'll deal with that. But let's be strong up front and tell them, here's how we're going to help you. First, you got to ask your screening questions. And so far, it doesn't seem to me that we're asking any screening questions to see if this is a case that we can take or not, somebody that we can help. You always want to have screening questions, not too many, just enough so that you know, based on the answers, is this somebody that we can help? Okay, so that's really important. But then once you're done with all that, tell them. Just say, based on what you've said, here's how we can help you. I'm going to be strong and be in control and confident. I'm going to schedule you an appointment. I'm going to send you X information. However your call to action is, I'm going to send you a retainer. Whatever it is for your law firm, for the call to action, just be strong and tell them, based on what you've said, I'm going to blank, blank, blank. We don't need to sound like we're not confident, and we definitely don't need to say, here's how we can do this. Okay? All right, let's continue. Let's see where we are. Here we go.
So how do you want to do this? I mean, here's what we can do for you. We can, if you have the medical records for your dad's treatment, we can review them with our medical expert to see if there was any deviation from the standard of care, and that would be the basis, to look into a lawsuit.
Okay. Basically, my mom and my younger brother are like, they're not going to get anywhere with this. But back in 2003, my dad almost died in Albany Medical Center. He just went in for a procedure with kidney cancer, and they did all kinds of stuff to him, and we almost lost him then. And then that happened to cost $1 million. We never found any kind of bill because they knew they were in the wrong. Now he goes back. I was so against the shoulder surgery, and so many things went wrong. So many things. I mean, this one doctor, Dr. Sammy, signed my father out of Albany, or my father did, but he was not great all, he knew who we were and all that other stuff, but he got signed out of Albany Medical Center with no clothes on and just a robe. Sitting there waiting for my mom to come and pick him up. They couldn't get him in the car. He fell down to the ground. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible.
Finally, 3 minutes and 56 seconds into the call. Yoo-hoo! I hear Brent say, that's terrible. Awesome. That's what we need, but that's what we need throughout the whole phone call. We need that all of the time. Terrible, terrible experience. I'm going to teach you something right now. This call could be organized differently with having the proper screening questions. Probably many of you can see that. But there are many times that when we're on the phone with a prospect that they do have a story, and the story kind of goes on and on and on, right, everybody? And you want to try to take back that control. So I'm not saying necessarily to do that with this particular moment, but I'm going to teach it to you right now because this is a good time to teach you. It's called compassionate interrupt. Write it down. So what you're going to do is when you're on the phone with somebody and you feel like you're asking your screening questions and the story is just getting so big and you need to take back that control, you're going to do a compassionate interrupt. And here's how you're going to do it. You're going to pick a place where they're talking, where you want to interrupt them. So wherever it is, and then write down the last 3 or 4 words that they just said. So you pick the place that you're going to interrupt them. You write down those 3 or 4 words that they just said. That's where you pick that you're going to interrupt them. You got to write down the words because you need to remember it. So maybe it's something like, Lisa, I heard you said your dad fell down on the ground. That's terrible. So pretend that's the place that you wanted to do it and you wrote down those words. So you pick the place, you write down the words, and then you go ahead and you say the person's name. So Lisa, you say her name, and you say her name a little bit louder than she's speaking because she can't hear you. If she's on a roll and she's telling you a story, she can't really hear you. So you're going to speak a little bit louder and you're going to say her name, and then you're going to say this. You're going to say, Lisa, I heard you when you said, and then you're going to repeat those 3 to 4 words where you just wrote down that you interrupted her. So Lisa, I heard you when you said blank, blank, blank. That's really terrible. Let me just ask you my next question. And then boom, you go into your next question. Okay, that's called a compassionate interrupt. Are you interrupting? Yes, you are. But you're doing it compassionately. So it's okay as long as you do it the way I said. And it's very important to say, I heard you when you said. You need to do all of those steps. Okay, so say the person's name. First, pick the location where you want to interrupt. Write down the 3 or 4 words where you decided you're going to interrupt. Say the person's name. Say it a little bit louder than they're speaking so they hear you. And then say, I heard you when you said, and then repeat those words where you interrupted. And then give a little bit of empathy and compassion and then redirect and get to where you need to go. My next question is, and get to your next screening question. And you might need to do a compassionate interrupt a few times during a call. It's okay. It's a compassionate interrupt. If you do it the way I'm teaching you, it's all right. It's all good. You're fine. Okay? All right, let's go. Let's continue here. There is going to be a test after. So I hope you're taking good notes. Here we go.
Ground. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And since all of that, everything has been going downhill, and now he's not here anymore to defend himself. So I feel the need to find out what happened. And then...
Okay, well, look, I mean, I'm going to ask you.
No. No. We've got Lisa crying and really telling more of the story. And we're like, okay, well, look. So first off, there's no empathy. And then the language that we're using is not good. Okay, now look. This is not what we want to be doing. Okay. Everything is about Lisa and what she's going through. It's more like, this is terrible, Lisa. I can't imagine being in your shoes. I'm so sorry to hear this. What a terrible experience. Your family is so fortunate to have you making this phone call today. So be there for Lisa and support Lisa. It's okay to do it. There's nothing wrong with providing empathy and compassion to somebody several times during a conversation. If you hang up from an intake call and there's no empathy and compassion, you can just tell yourself that's a little red flag for you. And that means that you're not really focusing on the call and hearing and feeling the person, okay, and what they're going through. Okay, here we go.
How do you want to do this?
So how do you want to do this? It's not what we want to do. We tell them how we're going to do it. Based on everything that you said, here's how I'm going to help you. Step 1, step 2, step 3. You tell them what you're going to do and be assumptive and don't ask them. They can come back and tell you, no, I don't want to do that. Don't ask, would you like to schedule an appointment? If you want, I can have you talk to an attorney. If you'd like, I can send you a retainer. It's all assumptive and it's okay. It's not being pushy. It's what they want. They need you to take their hand and pull them through the phone and help make decisions for them. They might say no, and you'll deal with that, but you don't know that until you get to that step. Okay, so here we go. And I know it's uncomfortable when people are crying, but this is what you're here for. You're intake specialists. This is what you do. This is your role. You provide love, care, and concern to people. You're not really that much different than the 911 people. And in my book, you're heroes. Okay, here we go.
Do you want me to talk to your mom?
Yes, she's just not ready yet. She's going to file a complaint he also went into a nursing home and got COVID because he needed rehabilitation. Okay, so there's a lot of things that she would be able to.
All right, so why don't you have your mom call me when she's ready?
Hang on, where are you? 845, is that Westchester or?
So we don't want mom to call when mom is ready. We want to be stronger and we want to be in more control, and we need to call mom. Okay, if that's the way this is going to go, we need to call mom. We need to build a relationship with mom, and we need to have a follow-up call with Lisa if that's where this call is going to go. We don't want to lose the prospect 100% completely. Okay, here we go.
Where are you?
No, we're in Kingston, New York. So where did, by the way, did this have, I'm...
You got to be careful not to be interrupting. And Brent is somebody that definitely has compassion and empathy, but he is so focused on the next step, he's not expressing it. And he's not really speaking very clearly because he doesn't have organized thoughts or screening questions or a script or anything. So he doesn't really sound clear on what he wants to have happen for the very next step. So here we go.
obviously this happened in Albany, but where did your dad reside?
He lived in Bern, New York.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, so look, when you,
It's okay to provide salesmanship during these phone calls too, and weave it in throughout the conversation and remind this person of things like some of the language would be you called the right place, you made the right decision calling today, you're in good hands. We get calls like this all the time. You're going to love our attorneys, you're going to love our firm. We're here to support you. You're not alone. You can trust us. There's a lot of different phrases like that. That's just simple, gentle salesmanship that can be weaved in through the conversation, and repeat the name of your law firm throughout the conversation, in addition to providing them empathy and asking screening questions. And you can repeat the empathy back to them and just repeat to them, I know this must be a really difficult time. Imagine yourself holding their hand, that you're in person with them and you're sitting with them and you're holding their hand and you're looking them in the eye and you're talking to them. But selling a law firm is also important too, because they will call other law firms. So have at your desk, a script of salesmanship type phrases that you can just say, maybe 5 of them, and weave throughout the conversation. And if you're uncomfortable with empathy, also have a script of maybe the top 5 empathy phrases that you happen to be comfortable with, because most people are not comfortable giving empathy, and that you can say throughout the conversation. And just don't worry about the person. Some intake specialists tell me, well, I think that they'll think I'm being phony. The person you're speaking to on the phone is not thinking like that. They're in the middle of a crisis. They're thinking about their situation right now. They're not wondering if you're looking at a script or if you're being phony or anything. And so it'll take time for you to get comfortable with it. But once you start doing it, it'll get easier and easier. And when they call your competition, because they will, the experience they had with you will be amazing, and they will follow through with you, and they will stick with you. So here we go.
yeah, well, I mean, I grew up in Albany, so I do know that. Are you comfortable with having your mom call me when she's ready?
Yeah, I would rather that, because she would be able to explain everything to the T. My mom.
And right. She obviously has the death certificate and any record.
So it's still about us and our details and what we need, and we're, a little bit of interrupting. You've got to be really careful of that.
That might be available. Okay.
She's going to call them and get the record.
All right. So my name is Brent, Brent, and the last name is Lammers. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Take your time.
Brent.
So when Brent said, take your time, that's just a sign that Brent has a big heart, and he gets it. He knows what he needs to do. He just needs to be reminded of it. And if he heard his phone call and he really paid attention to it, he'd probably be shocked. He would probably be disappointed in himself. But that is the only way to help intake specialists, because their job is so difficult. You've got to put a system in place where they're listening to their own recorded calls on a regular basis, and they're reviewing them. It is a painful process for them, but you must have that system in place. Although the only reason to not do it possibly would be if you're not going to do any more marketing. If suddenly for some reason you're going to pull the plug on marketing, and you're not going to spend all that time, money, energy, and effort on marketing anymore, okay, then maybe you don't need to. But if you're going to keep marketing, you have to inspect what you expect. And it's not because you're trying to catch your intake specialist doing bad things. It's not that at all. It's so that you can support them and that you can help them to convert more and for them to have a more healthy experience. Your intake specialists are going through trauma handling these phone calls because of the type of phone calls. So you will be helping them to have a better experience on the job while they help people. Okay?
Brent, Brent Lammers, Lammers. Okay, and the number's 845-802-0047.
All right, hold on. I'm sorry. You talked too fast, right?
I'm sorry. Yep. 802-0047.
Okay.
All right.
845-802-0047.
Yep. And what's your mom's name?
My mom.
Now we're asking the mom's name. At the end of the phone conversation, we're 6 minutes and 27 seconds into the call. This is what we needed to ask at the beginning of the conversation. And if you have a situation like this where you've got somebody like Lisa calling, and she's calling on behalf of her mom and her dad, when you get those kind of phone calls, get everybody's name. Usually it's only one other person that they're calling on behalf of, but get that person's name and use all of the names in the conversation. So say the names, say the dad's name during the conversation, say the mom's name, say Lisa's name, because it's a whole story. It's a whole family. It's a whole package. And you're building a relationship and you're building trust. Okay?
Mom's name is Linda Clemmer.
Okay.
And she was his trustee. She feels like, it's been 2 weeks, so she's having a hard time with all this. Obviously.
Well, when she's ready, it's okay,
So we're interrupting. We got to be careful of that. That just tells me that Brent's mindset, his focus on this call is just getting the details that he feels that he needs to get. And he's forgetting about focusing on Lisa and what's happening to Lisa. It doesn't mean that he doesn't care. It just means that he needs to be reminded. And the only way to get reminded, because you folks have a lot of phone calls you handle all day long and it's very difficult, is RMFD, record, monitor, feedback daily. The painful exercise of listening to your recorded calls and critiquing yourself and reminding yourself. That's what you need to do. That's the single best way to get to be really, really good at this. And then one phone call at a time. Okay, here we go.
I mean, there's a 2-year statute of limitations on filing a wrongful death claim in the state of New York. So, you should let her, when she's ready, she'll know when she'll call. Is that fair?
All right.
So no, that's not what we want to do. So the mindset that we want to have, if it doesn't work out the way we initiate it, then that's okay. But the mindset we want to have is the assumptive language of taking control of the call and us saying what we're going to do. Here's how I can help you. Here's what the next step is. Here's what we can do. I mean, this is sales. Okay, so it is about love, care, and concern, and it is about relationships, but you're also in the sales business. I mean, whether you like it or not, you are. We're spending money on marketing to get the phones to ring, and we're grateful every time the phone rings, because every time the phone rings, we have job security. So we're grateful for it, and we want to embrace it, but we want to go ahead and help Lisa. The only way we can help her is tell her how we can help her. So here's what I'm going to do, Lisa. The next step is you can work with Lisa. If she tells you, no, I want you to talk to my mother, then say, so how can you help me to have a conversation with your mom? If she says no, that's okay. But what I want to see when I listen to an intake call is that the intake specialist is trying to go ahead and convert and be assumptive, okay? Trying to do that versus laying back and being more like, when you're ready. Because we feel like it's a really uncomfortable situation. Lisa is calling about her dad dying and the mom being upset and stuff. So we feel uncomfortable. So we might lay back a little bit. Don't do that. Don't do that. Lisa will tell you if she doesn't want to work with you, or if she can't, or if she's not ready. But your mindset needs to be, you go in there and you tell them how you can help them and what the next step is to help them. And in this case, let's just say it stays the way it does. Let's just say you do that and Lisa says, no, I think I just really wanted to call and kind of tell you a little bit about what's going on. And I'll talk to my mother and my baby brother. And, the next step would probably be for you to talk to my mother. Then get all of Lisa's contact information. Don't hang up. without that information. Get all of Lisa's. So here right now in this phone call, Lisa is the decision maker. Lisa is the one that you have to build the relationship with. Lisa is the one that you're trying to convert. You're trying to get her to the next step in this example. Whoever you talk to is the one that's in charge at that moment. They are the person that you're trying to convert. So you need to get in this example, you need to get all of Lisa's contact information and make arrangements to follow up with Lisa and check in with her to see how she is. And then you can check in about her mom and how her mom is. And that will help you get to the next step and the next step in this call example, the way it's going right now. But my message is go for it, assumptive language. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. You can't help. Lisa's not going to call back. And I mean, we just told her the statute of limitations is 2 years. She's not going to call back. She called and she got to vent. Now you need to give her a big hug and help her. Okay? All right, here we go.
That's terrifying. I appreciate your time.
Okay, I'm sorry. What was your name again?
My name is Lisa.
So hello. At the beginning of the conversation, Lisa said who she was. Okay? We need to pay attention to the phone call, use our scripts, go down each step, and know at the end of the day, you don't hang up without someone's contact information. If you're not going to be able to close the deal, so to speak, the call to action in this example would be, make sure I have your spelling of your name, give me the best number to reach you at. Do you have a backup phone number? Okay, let me get your email because I can send you some information. You're going to be on my mind. I'm going to be thinking about you, and I'm going to call you and check in with you. In fact, I'm going to open my calendar up right now and tell you when I'm going to check in with you, and you tell me if that's okay. And you be assertive and assumptive. They can say no, but you can't lose the lead because you can't help Lisa if you do that. And you can't protect her anymore from your competition. Okay, here we go.
Lisa Clemmer.
Okay, Lisa, I'm sorry.
So you heard Brent say, I'm sorry. So that, again, that's just another sign to me. You know, he's got empathy and concern, but he's just not applying it in this call.
No, that's okay. This is something that is weighing heavy on our hearts right now, and I just feel that.
Okay, so it might be a little soon. So, you know, you guys have to, just go through the process, and, when you're ready, we'll be here.
No, it's not about when you're ready. That's a given. That's a given. She called today, so we need to work on converting today. And if it has to be getting her complete contact information to make a date, to stay in front of her, to build a relationship with her, and then to eventually talk to her mom, then that's okay too. But at least let's do that. Okay. This call was almost 8 minutes. Almost 8 minutes, and we're leaving with nothing. Okay, here we go.
All right,
and we'll be happy to evaluate your case for you. Okay.
I appreciate that, Brent. I will give her your
All
number.
right, Lisa.
All right, thank you. Bye.
All right, you're welcome. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. And don't forget to provide salesmanship at the end of the calls. Remind Lisa you called the right place. You made the right decision. You're not alone. We're here for you. You're going to be okay. You're on our minds. One of the most important things that your team should know, write this down. And it's interesting to me how many teams don't know this because I don't think it's really talked about that much. But write this down. This is the single most important question that all team members at your law firm should know, not just intake specialists, is here it is. Why should I choose your law firm over all the rest? That's not an easy question. It's not, oh, we've been doing this for 30 years. We're a family business. We win X amount of cases. It's not those kind of answers. But everybody in your firm should know that. And it should be one answer and everybody knows it and they've got it scripted out and they use it in their conversations. And everybody should understand what that answer is. Why should I choose your law firm over all the rest? So that's a little exercise and assignment for everybody to kind of get together and figure out what is that answer. And people tell you that answer all the time. When you have conversations with people and, as an intake specialist, they kind of hint on how great of a relationship they just had with you in a conversation and how they feel about it and, how they like that you were there for them. And even lawyers have those relationships with established clients all the time. Clients will kind of drop bits of information about why they're happy and what's working and why they like working with your law firm. And we don't really pay attention. We don't pay attention to those little gems that kind of come out of the conversation. So we hear the answer to that question all the time, but we're so internally focused that we don't remember to be externally focused, which means focusing on the relationship, whether it's a prospect or a client, the way we want people to focus on us. So that's the call. I hope everybody loved it. Everybody loved that critique?
I did.
Who's I did?
That's me, John Fisher.
Okay, great.
Chris, we do have a question. Brian asks, how do you get the client's permission to record the call?
You can tell them at the beginning of the call. I think there's some automated ways that you can do it. I mean, we all as consumers, we call places, we hear this call is being recorded for quality assurance and training purposes. But some firms actually just will tell them at the very beginning because they don't have that automated way of doing it, the technology. And they just let the client know or the prospect know, this call is being recorded for training. Is that okay? And then that's it. And I've never heard anybody say, don't do it or no. It's kind of like, okay. And they move on. Especially
go ahead.
when you do outbound phone calls. It's also important to do it when you do outbound phone calls, when you're trying to, go and chase the business, to say the same thing. Check the laws for recording calls in your state. Just make sure you do that. But also for outbound phone calls, just say, hi, Mrs. Smith, this is Chris calling from, Attorney John's law firm. Is this a good time? Yes, it is. So I just want to let you know this call is being recorded for training. Is that okay? Yes, it is. And off you go.
No, that's great. Thank you, Chris. Brian mentions and Brian, you're unmuted. We have the automated recording. Some clients balk per my intake staff. Chris, do you have a response for that?
I didn't understand the question. Say it again.
Brian writes in the chat. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, thanks, John. Hi, Chris. Thank you for the tutorial. But we started having the intake staff record the phone calls, and we got a lot of complaints from my two intake people saying that a lot of the clients don't want to be recorded at all. So how do you get around that? I mean, I want to get the case signed up, but they're just balking at being recorded.
Well, if I have never, in all the times that I've listened to call recordings, I've never heard anybody say, I don't want you to record the call. So that's surprising to me. But if somebody says they don't want to be recorded, then you can't record them.
Okay. Just turn it off then?
What's that?
Just turn it off?
Yeah, I would just turn it off if they say that. Now, do you hear them saying that?
I didn't. I have not. I'll admit I have not listened to the calls. So.
Oh well, okay. So let's back up for a second then. Listen to their calls.
Mm-hmm.
If you hear that.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah, let's see if you are hearing that because again, I listen to so many phone call recordings from law firms. I have never heard anybody say that, and I've never even had an intake specialist student in a coaching program of mine say to me, hey, Chris, what do I do about this? Not once in 25 years.
Okay.
So I would double check it.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Brian Bishop. Sarah Lindenbaum has a question for you. Sarah?
Hey, Sarah.
Hi, can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
I
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay, great. So We are a law firm dealing mostly with PI, but we have a larger law firm that deals in all sorts of cases. And sometimes a lead comes in and I know that it's just not a case area that we do, because, and, we're likely to refer it. But, if it's just a bad potential case and we're not even going to refer it out, what's the best way to let down the person and say, I'm sorry, we just can't take your case right now?
Yeah. So breaking the news. It's not an easy thing, mostly for the intake specialist to have to execute. They feel really uncomfortable and poorly and badly about having to do it. But the best thing that you can do is, if you don't have referrals that you can provide somebody. I mean, it's always good if you have a referral list that you can provide them with the right referral. You can give them the Bar Association phone number. If you have some law firms have books that they still send out, or resource guides, community resource guides that they send out to provide for help. So any kind of resources like that, it's best if you can provide them something when you tell them that you can't help them. But also, it's how you tell them that you can't help them. So using their name, saying, Mrs. Smith, based on everything that you've said to me today, this is not a case that we can help you with. I'm terribly sorry for your situation, but here's how we can help you. And so you change your voice and you change your tone and you change your pitch to how we can help you, and then try to provide them with at least one resource, even if it's just the Bar Association or the Lawyer Referral Service.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about the intake specialist changing their voice and their tone, being confident based on what you said are key words, because it's not about me, Mrs. Smith. It's about, based on what you said, this is not a case that I could help you with today, or that we can help you with, but here's how we can help you. Do you have a pen handy? Great. Write this down. And then whatever resource it's going to be that you do provide them. And if for some reason you don't have a resource, I think it's very possible for every law firm to have some types of resources to provide people, some help resources, even if it's community help resources. But if for some reason that you don't, you just have to be strong and say it the way I said it, and provide empathy about her situation. Again, still, even though you already did it during the conversation, and just also let that person know. But I also want to let you know before you go that we do practice law in these other areas. And if anything ever happens and you need some help, I want you to consider us a law firm that you can call and you can ask any question to at any time.
Okay.
Chris, we do that too. We have a full referral list that we have, and if something is a real case, and any kind of case, if it's a real case, we will find a referral attorney online quickly and refer it out. If it's not a case and it's just like something really ridiculous, then we just tell them we have an email with like legal resources like the bar, legal aid, anything like that, and then we send them that. But we always give them something.
Good for you. Congratulations. Good for you. Sarah, that was probably pretty helpful to you, right?
Yeah, and we certainly do often try to do referrals when we can, but sometimes the case is just like there are no obvious damages, or it's legally something that cannot be resolved, and I always feel bad sort of leaving the client with nothing, but I really like the idea of just asking, may I have your email? Here's some, I don't want to say do it yourself, but for the sake of argument, let's say here's some do it yourself resources that you may find helpful. We appreciate your call, et cetera, et cetera.
And it's very helpful if the whole conversation is going the way I was just coaching today. So I talked a lot about love, care, and concern and empathy. So if the whole call is going that way and we have to end up breaking the news, it's not going to be as hard on the person you're speaking to, because the conversation and the relationship that they had with you was just amazing. And they felt connected and they felt heard, like somebody was there. So that makes a really big difference.
We get reviews like that too, where they say, I called your law firm and although they couldn't help me, they pointed me in the right direction. So they do appreciate it.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, this is John Fisher. Do we have other questions? Chris, hey, a few thoughts that I have. And first of all, thank you so much because it was tremendous. And your insights, as always, as far as I'm concerned, you are the absolute best. And I'm so grateful for everything. And I hope that my team here will take this with the understanding that we're here to improve. And all of your advice is given with love and compassion, because that's all that you've shown me from the time that we first met. And I'm so grateful for that. One thing, just a few comments. One thing is mirror and reflect is such a powerful thing, not just with intake, but for trial attorneys. When a witness gives a statement on the stand and I repeat back what those final 3 or 4 words that they gave, it's showing that I'm listening to them. And that's showing respect for what they just said. In jury selection, I do the same thing. When they make a statement, I'll listen very carefully and repeat back, or sometimes I'll paraphrase what they said. And I'll say, is that what I hear you saying? And it's showing that I'm paying attention and I care about them. And, I think mirror and reflect is such a great thing. And the compassionate interruption is so cool too, because a lot of times people do just ramble and you can't be on the phone for 2 hours with every single call. So compassionate interruption is a really cool thing. Now I know, and my takeaway really from this is I have to work closer with you to get our team up to speed, because Brent is a super guy and I love Brent, but I saw all the things that you mentioned, and the brutal honesty is there's tremendous room for improvement. So we need to work with you, but tell us what you have to offer if any of the members here are interested in working with you in training.
Yeah, so what we do is we do coaching for intake specialists and for attorneys. And we do customized coaching for attorneys and law firms privately. So it's not a group, it's one-on-one. And we actually listen to your call recordings, and we play your call recordings during the training session. And we do it like what we did today. We review them and we critique them together as a team. And it's called progress, not perfection. That's what we're looking for. We're trying to help intake specialists to be improving from 1 month to the next. And none of this is ever about what's wrong with you, what happened to you, why are you handling the call like that? It's not about that at all. Intake specialists are the most important role in your law firm. Without an intake specialist, you don't have a need for a law firm.
Absolutely. And that's so much. And I think I want to thank you, not you, both Chris, you and everyone who attended, because you listened and you heard from an absolute master, and we are so grateful. If any of our members want to get in touch with you, Chris, how would they do that?
They can just email me directly. So my direct email is phone, PHONE, success, SUCCESS, doctor, DOCTOR, phone success doctor @gmail.com.
Wonderful. And thank you again, Chris, because your insights were tremendous. There's no one better. And thank you everyone for attending today's call. We will share the recording of this. And so if anyone does not have it, I can provide Gary Christmas a copy, a recording of the meeting. Joanna, I'm happy to do that. And Chris, thank you again for your time.
Oh, my pleasure. Good luck, everybody. Keep up the good work and stay healthy. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
That was wonderful, Chris. Appreciate it.